fit into a community, right? And I got myself into a lot of trouble with that.
Hey, welcome to 42, Two Souls, One Journey, a raw and unedited look into our lives as humans, based on the 21 grams experiment by Dr. Duncan MacDougall, who concluded that the human soul weighs 21 grams. On this podcast, we will explore that no matter what our lives look like on paper, our souls journey similarly. In this episode, we're speaking with the 2018 Pride Grand Marshal, a staple in the Toronto queer brown community space, I would say for at least 2 decades, or the past 2 decades. Quiet, he's friendly, consistent, and he has his eyes that I think have made every one of my female friends say, "Oh my God, will he marry me?"
Ah,
Haran, how are you doing?
well, oh, that was an interesting intro. I'm good. How are you?
Then I'm trying to think of like what like people know about you and what people assume about you in Toronto. And then also I feel like this episode is different because I feel like we're gonna go on a first date because I feel like there's so much about you that I don't know, and there's so much about you that in conversation with other people, they're like they want to know about you. I feel like people know you as the ASAP ED, or like there's a very specific way they think they know of you, or Shaz's mother, right? Like drag mother or like house mother, right? Like they know you as a yeah. But I don't like people like I don't know, and I think people don't know who don't know a lot about you. So this is our chance to let them know.
Sounds
Yeah,
like a plan.
bring it on. Yeah. So I was trying to remember the first time we met because one of the one of the things about the podcast is like when did our souls meet and when did our souls connect? And I feel like for us it was two moments. Like our souls met at one moment, but our souls connected for me at a different moment. So I'll tell you my version of it, and then you can tell me your version of it.
Sure.
So, or what you remember? So it's not a different version, but what you remember? So I think my first meeting was at Harbourfront. It was Masala Mendi Masti. You were with Sony, and we met at the bottom of her building. And I remember like it was a very quick introduction, but and nothing more than that. But that was like that's my first memory of meeting you, and it was a very formal, like weird, not weird, but a very like I think we both knew we were gay, but we didn't say it, and like that wasn't a space to like identify as queer people, or I don't like it. It was just a very like it was a very straight meeting for me.
Yeah.
But I think when my soul attracted, like when I looked the second when my soul was like, oh, this person I know was, for me, it's Fashion Cares, and so my memory is Fashion Cares. You were painted in silver with angel wings, and I think you were shirtless. Either you were shirtless or it was Anthony Mohammed. Because I feel like at that time in like our lives, Anthony Mohammed was always shirtless. So there's very few brown people who are shirtless at that point. But I feel like I remember being this like little brown gay boy being sort of lost in the space, and I remember connecting with you. Like I remember meeting you there, and again, I feel like we had the same sense, but I was doing the art gallery stuff, and you were looking for donations, and I think at that point I was like, oh, this brown guy is like. For me, my soul was like, I get this brown guy because we are the exact same person in the same space, feeling overwhelmed, but here to connect, here to be a part of this community. Um, so I don't like. So you tell me. Yeah, first of all, it was super real.
Yeah, no, but Solid Minibesti was right. I think that's when
Okay.
I first started working at ASAP. And so ASAP CASA and Salco used to do this thing together where we would coordinate the sort of the alternative space, if you want to call it a masala, to push the boundaries. And
Right.
I think that's when I met you. And then we were in a discussion group together around something. It was back then, but yeah, it was definitely at Masala Mendi when we first met,
Right.
when we were both young and twinkish. And and then Fashion Cares, no, I would never take my shirt off and I would never be painted, except for once I did take my clothes off for an ASAP poster. But I think we really connected. It was at a party, and I want to say it's another Sony Das Mahacha party or something like that. It was a house party.
Okay.
That's when we sat down and had a conversation. I did run into you at Fashion Cares and was a Bollywood cowboy one.
Right.
And I think he was the person that I was dating at the time who was the brown guy with the shirt off and angel wings.
Okay. Okay. Like, yeah, there's a very strong association with you with angel wings and fashion cares. And I think you're right, it was Bollywood Cowboy.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
that was lifetimes ago, almost.
All right. We were twinkish. Like I think it was in our 20s, right? It must have been in our 20s.
Yeah, yeah,
Which feels like lifetimes ago because I feel like we were talking earlier, like when you're Toronto, when you come out, like who you are at the very beginning to who you are at the end, and like I've had about 20 years of being gay in Toronto. Like you're a different person,
yeah.
like because you're
Well,
still exploring and figuring yourself out. Um, yeah, so it does feel like a lifetime ago because it was like it was like I had just come out. I got to be like fabulous and gay and it was young and like could
well,
say
I look
anything.
at old pictures and I'm like, I really did that. Like seriously, green contacts and like the conch shell necklaces and the tweezed eyebrows, looking like everyone else that you're not supposed to look like.
Yeah. Okay, so let's tell me about that phase in your life. Like what were you going through? Like what were you thinking about at that moment? Because I have the exact same photograph with the exact same green context, just FYI. Yeah.
Well, I think some people call that fashion forward, and I think and I'm sure that was fashion at that time. We all regret it later, like the shoulder pads and the big hair. But I think it's also like trying to fit in with your community and your group, right? Like at that time, to be young and to be gay in the city, you had to look a certain way and you had to act a certain way and you had to dress a certain way. It's almost like being back in high school again,
Right.
where to be with the cool kids, you dress like the cool kids and you sort of live up to the Joneses, I guess, if you want to call it that. So I think that's what I was going through, although it almost killed me because, like, it's a lot of money. And I really like Dolly Parton's saying that it takes a lot of money to look
Like
this
this cheap. Right.
like
True.
that's what I did. And so, and then you sort of fit into that party lifestyle and you're going out every night and you're connecting with people but are they meaningful connections? Who knows? It's like throwing spaghetti to the wall. If it sticks, great. um but yeah, and that's sort of what I was going through. Like I had the green contact lenses because it was cool.
Right.
That's what people were doing. The conch shell, that was part of fashion. And I waxed myself. Oh no, I didn't wax. I nared, because it was too much body hair and it was itchy. It was painful.
Yeah.
And so like you nail your legs, you nail your arms, and it was a show.
Oh, that's like I feel like I don't remember you. Like I don't. We weren't friends who talked at that point because that sounds extreme. A lot of word.
Oh, it was.
Yeah.
Like, you come from, like, I grew up in Winnipeg and then I moved out to Toronto, and then you go from this small city to this big city, and then you're like, ah, deer in headlights, and then you just make it work. And of course, I was working at ASAP at that time, and I had my linen capri shorts with your fitted t-shirt, and I would walk into Scarborough with my little outreach bag to put on a display of condoms and safer sex information to the Tamil community in Scarborough.
Right.
It was, yeah, I don't regret it, but looking back on it, I'm like, wow.
It's still like 20 years ago to be able to walk into Scarborough Town Center to talk to the Camels community about condoms and HIV. Like what? I can't even imagine. Like I feel like it's still scary now to go to Scarborough Town Center to talk to people about this kind of stuff. Like what would have propelled you to? I mean, I guess you were working there, so that's the propeller. But where did you draw? Like, I would have been scared. I would have 100% been scared. Like, what was the motivating factor for you to be able to show up and not be scared of somebody like racial slurring you or beating you up, especially at Scarborough Town Center. That place is scary. Just FYI, people.
Yeah, well, and early back in the day, like in the early 2000s, there was a lot of gang violence and activity, and it was just petering
Yeah.
off, right? And but ignorance is bliss sometimes, and so I just like walk in and walk out, like, and I would pay attention to nobody. I became Torontonian. I was never, I lost my Winnipeg self to say hi to people,
Right.
and I just walk in and you walk right out, and you just pretend like you heard nothing, you saw nothing, and then that's the way you kind of roll with the punches. But it actually wasn't a terribly negative experience. A lot of people were supportive with the other community organizations that would be there. So there was strength in numbers in that circumstance. So that also
Okay.
helped me. But yeah, definitely being Torontonian in Toronto helps that as well.
Yeah. Okay. So it's so funny you said that. So like you're born in Winnipeg, you lived in Winnipeg until you were 20, then you came to Toronto, and now we're back in like you're back in Winnipeg. And so am I. Not that I was in Winnipeg to begin with, but what of that like being in Winnipeg now, people like talk about Canadian kindness. Like this city like, I feel like I read about these in books, so people talk about this, and I was like I'm Toronto all the way through, and I was like, that doesn't exist. Toronto people are jerks. We're busy. We've got things like no one's interested in talking to you. But here, like, it's textbook. People are so kind and so Canadian's the best way to say it. Like textbook Canadian.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's true. Winnipeg, I mean, it has its moments of racism and all of that stuff that goes on for sure. It is pretty conservative, but it truly is. I mean, I got to know my neighbors. I leave notes to say, if the dogs are making noise, let me know and I'll come and deal with it, or I'll send my sister or something like that. If you're stalled, people will stop and they won't keep driving. They'll actually stop to help you to see if they can call CAA for you or give you a boost or something or push you out of a snowbank. So people do that here, and I think that's what's really really lovely. And it's nice because like you have time, and I think that also helps as well. You have time to stop and talk to people. um, you have time to engage, whether it's a meaningful conversation or not. Whereas in Toronto, it was just a go 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 thing. And I mean, I loved it when I was in my 20s and early 30s. But then with work and with life, and it's just like it takes its toll big time, mentally and physically.
Right. And your work's been consistently in the community, I feel like, from the get-go. Like if we talk about like ASAP from the very beginning and CASA and all that kind of stuff, like haven't you've just been in like you've been engrossed in it from the get-go. So since you got there. And our community has a lot of trauma. Like there's so much happening, right? And like trying to fit into the gay scene, and then being South Asian, and all the like stigma or whatever comes with that, and our own personal self-hate and stigma that comes with that. Um, yeah, I would I'm exhausted just talking about it. I can't I don't know how you did it for all those years.
I don't know either. Um, but yeah, like I said, it
You,
aged me quite nicely.
yeah,
But it's it's interesting because I mean you can identify and you can have conversation and you create community that way. A lot of great people I've met through work, and a lot of my friends I've met through work, and I've been able to draw those lines. But I mean, you know, it does, because then I think that's why also I'm single, because you can't date people that you're working with or you're helping, right? And
right.
or volunteers of organizations. So I think it's sort of I did my best to date, and I'm also quite the bitch that I don't know. I don't think I do relationships very well. Maybe I will. Now that I'm in Winnipeg, I might be nicer. My heart might melt a little bit, but but that's just the way it is. Um, but yeah, like it really did. Like you kind of sort of find solace in your community and your friends and your people around you, and then and you have a good time doing it.
Okay, so I've got two things that come up right away. Wait, I don't think anybody would classify you as a bitch in a relationship. Like a bitch, first of all. Um, Tell us about this. I'm so interested in the
But I think
juiciness of this part. I'm interested in the juiciness. Why why do you think you'd be a bitch in a relationship? Or you were a bitch in a relationship in
Oh, I
Toronto?
was. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I think it's just because I get into my own head about things and my own securities come out. And therefore, I mean, I do my best to be in a relationship and be fair with people and engage. But I know if it's not working, then it's not working, and I just call it, kind of thing. And so I think that directness is considered bitchiness, I guess. I don't know. But I mean, not in a relationship so much, but I think people also think of me as either standoffish or cold when they first meet me when I go into a space and I'm there. A lot of people said it's hard, like they were intimidated to come and speak to me, and I'm like, why? Uh, like I'm standing there with condoms.
Yeah.
What's intimidating about that? So people have said that about me. And it was yeah, it was quite the interesting conversation, and people, and sometimes I think I just get catty, and I just kind of make a comment, and people also say that, that I could be a bitch with a smile on my face, and I can cut people, but people won't even know that they're being cut, if that makes any sense. And I've never really noticed that myself, but like Shazad, for example, was like, "You were a real bitch there." And I'm like, so it's quite fascinating to watch people, or my other friends would say the same thing. I'm like, okay, I just do it. And then I don't even know I'm doing it half the time.
No, wait, I feel like I've never gotten that sense of you ever. And I think like any of my friends who've met you, like in the that's not like that is far from the kind of impression they get of you. It's like that's so funny. Like that's such a like it's almost like this country Toronto like gay, like but I feel like I don't ever peg you like that. I've seen you like that. I'm not saying I have never seen you like that. I definitely have seen you in those moments, and those are amazing to be a part of. But I don't think that's the first like never been my first impression of you, or again with anybody I've introduced. That's so it's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, and I honestly don't even notice it unless people tell me, or I be oblivious, and like they were like, "Ren, that guy was checking you out." And I'm like, "Who?" Um, or I'd noticed the dog before I noticed the guy, kind of situation. Um,
Right.
so yeah, I don't know. I need some help there.
Oh, okay. Well, we're in Winnipeg. I'm here to help you. I mean, I don't know what that means even because, but yeah. I mean, do you think that? I mean, having a dog. I always hear having a dog helps. Like, like in Toronto, if you have a dog, you're more likely to meet friends or dog doggy parents than you are actually about a pet. Um, I mean, did you not find that? I guess did you not find that was an asset when you had the pets?
No, I mean, it worked the same way because, again, like you said earlier, like I worked in the community so much that I built those relationships, and through people I met people, but also, living at Green Rock Properties where I was living with Shaz. I got Charlie, and of course they had the Green Rock Dog People Park thing, right? And so I met people through that too, and extended my network. But people do talk to you with a dog,
Right.
than anything else. But I think more than anything, the dogs have helped me manage Toronto as best as I could, because it's like, oh, if I have to go, I have to leave somewhere, then I'm like, oh, I have to go take the dogs out. I'm so sorry. Like they they were my wing people, I guess if you want to call them. But yeah, no, I've met people, and I'm blessed with that. Like I do meet people. My relationships have been with people have been long term. Like my friends here in Winnipeg, I've known since high school, and in Toronto, my good group of friends I can count on my two hands, and I've known them since I've arrived in Toronto. So, when I build relationships and solid relationships, and I'm grateful to know you and Raheem and all of them too, because um, you're around for a reason, and we've been able to stay in touch and keep in touch. Although we may not be the greatest of friends and bestest of buddies or bosom buddies, but I consider you an amazing human being, and um, and I uh, and I appreciate having you in my life, especially when we were doing the whole friend boyfriend thing and we were like shopping for ties and those little tie clips and pins and macaroons and Yorkdale pretending.
The best days of my life, to be honest with you. That's also my most successful relationship as well. So there you go. No, and again, I think we feel the same way about you. There's something about you that's just like it feels like home. But like like you're like even if we don't have to talk every day, we don't see each other every day. We're not bosom buddies. But there's something about like the moment I see you, I'm like, oh great, like I know that girl. Like it's
Comfort thing.
yeah, there's a comfort to it. Again, and I think again that there's that fashion cares moment was that for me. Like I saw you and I was like, I saw you. Apparently, I saw your boyfriend you were dating instead, and I was like, I know that girl. She's a girl I know. Um, but no, I feel like it was you. Like your eyes are very like your visuals are very specific. Like when you look at you into your eyes, you're looking to her, and I feel like it was you. So maybe this person was beside you, but it was 100% like
Oh,
that
yeah.
moment was you. Yeah.
No, I was there for sure. And we
Yeah.
probably were talking, but he was the one with the shirt
Right. Okay.
off.
Well, I mean, if you're gonna date somebody, you might as well date somebody who's gonna, the shirt off sounds fantastic. Yeah. Because you have the contacts and the conch necklace. Hello, right? That was
No,
your thing. Yeah.
let's keep it real.
God, it's so funny that I have those memories as well. Like that photograph exists 100%. Yeah. Good to know we really are all journeying the same way, no matter what. Okay, so Winnipeg is very white. Like it's still very white now. You grew up here. Tell us about like what was Winnipeg like when you grew up here?
Well, if you think this is pretty white, um, so take it back a couple of notches. Like
Yeah.
so when I was in elementary school at Greenway, I was one of three South Asian kids in the school. It was me and my sister and someone else. And then, there was, of course, there's a lot of Indigenous kids and stuff. And so we often got mixed up by teachers for being Indigenous because we were all brown skinned.
Or
Um, yeah. And then when you go down south, so there was a little bit more diversity in the south end of Winnipeg. That's where I sort of finished my high school after my parents got divorced. But it was pretty white. When I went to university, I got my credit card for the first time, and I was going to class, and then of course you're in your sweatpants and things like that. And I went to the Bay because I'm like, okay, I'm gonna buy some cologne um, with my credit card. And then so I walk in, I'm standing at the cologne counter. The lady completely ignores me until I pulled out my credit card. So that kind of when I walked through Portage Place in the Bay, I remember these kinds of stories of this is what it was like in Winnipeg. And of course, you grow up gay, and then you go to, I went to Rainbow Resource Center for their youth group, etc. My best friend Tara and I would go, and I was the only South Asian kid in that entire space, right? And so people would tell you, you should come out of the closet. That I'm like, nope.
right.
I came out of the closet, I'd be skinned alive. But I not really. I mean, my family was good to me when I did come out. But that was Winnipeg back then. Up until I left, I think it was pretty much the same. It is a lot more diverse now with immigration and a lot more people. So we do have a lot more diversity within the different communities that exist, which is great. But if you think this is white, well, you should have gone back 20 years.
Yeah, I don't think again, I've got such a Toronto lens cap right in my head. Like I came from Africa, Toronto, and that's where I grew up. And so for me, that's Canada for most of it. So coming here has been such an eye opener to see so many things. And yeah, you're right. I guess I would not be like, I don't know. Like it would be, yeah, I can't even imagine. Like I hate being the brown guy in most spaces normally. Like I'm always looking for other people of color. That's also in Toronto. Like here, right? But yeah, it's wow, that's and you're right. I feel like culturally coming out for a white person is so different, right? Right, you said you get skin alive, but you wouldn't get skin alive, but it's still a lot more. There's so much more conversation around that I think even now we still don't have it in the queer spaces, right? Like I think about any of the stuff I did with PWA or with any of the organization. If I'm the only brown person there, like this idea that a solution, if this is the solution for somebody who's white and comes out, a little more nuanced for people who are of color because there's a bit more complexity around it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is getting a little bit better for some folks, but and a lot more people are coming out. But it certainly is. It's not just as simple as coming out. There's a lot more, especially when you have the extended family situation happening. It's like, oh my god, what are they going to think? What are they going to think? Not really what you think, but what are they going to think? So that's always a challenge. It was interesting navigating it, but I'm grateful to have had the opportunity to then come out of the closet to my mom and my sisters, and then move to Toronto.
Perfect. Like, yeah. Drop the bomb, get out. Yeah. um, so I think about the crew of boys. So like we joke that you're the mother of that house, but like all those boys aren't from Toronto. Like they are actually imports into Toronto, and it's kind of like you were there for them. Like it's almost like you were like your experiences would help them um I don't like assimilate better into the city, or like, they had somebody they can ask the questions to, or know that if you made it, then they'll be okay. And those boys have done amazing. Like I'm a huge fan of those boys and the work they've done over the last couple years. Like I remember them as like babies who came to Toronto, and then like now there's grown men doing some really great stuff and really advocating for community and queerness and brownness in the city.
Yeah.
Like do you feel like was those some of the conversations that happened at home? Like, do you think your experience is really like just because they love you to pieces? Every time they talk about you, they're like, oh, Haran. Like they have such great things to say about you when they talk about you.
No, I absolutely adore them. I mean, I think there are times where we annoyed each other a whole lot, but I absolutely adore all of them. And Shaz, I consider to be my little brother. Um, he was. I learned a lot from them as well, and just watching them go through what they're going through. But they were always insightful individuals. I just sort of was there, and I think with like. Wasim, I think I met up with him for the first time, and he and I are already connected before he even came in from South Africa. And so, and watching him do what he does, and Shaz and Imran and all of them, I think they're a great group of people, and they actually living with them allowed me to live life a little bit freer, and I kind of let my guard down quite a bit because they're an interesting bunch, but I felt safe with them. And then, of course, I would be home, and if they're out, then at least I would follow up. I would be that mom to say, "Okay, hi, are you alive?" kind of situation. But didn't know it was a mutual growing, and it was a mutual conversation and mutual support there. And I kind of miss those nights where we're just sitting down and shooting the shit or watching, runs on or reruns on television with the Golden Girls.
Right.
And that's what Shaz and I sort of loved is the Golden Girls, or Frankie and what's her name?
Great.
Frankie and Grace. And so
Right.
we binge watch those, or yeah, like I miss those times. I miss that and having the people around.
Haran froze. I don't know. Hmm. Well, thank you for joining us on this podcast. I don't know what else to say. I guess I'm gonna have to edit this out. Hmm.
Oh, there you are.
I just frozen. Ah, la, la.
That's too funny. Was
Hmm.
that me who froze or you froze?
I have no idea. Um, we'll see on the recording.
So
But I
I'll
just
just say it was lovely living.
yeah. I started wrapping up. I was like, okay, well, thank you for coming to the episode. Like, it's over. I guess this is the raw,
Oh,
and this is the raw and unedited part about it. I don't know how to edit it, so we're just gonna,
yeah.
yeah, we're gonna see how it goes. Yeah. So you were talking about
Okay.
missing Shaz and the boys.
Yeah, missing
Yeah.
Shaz and the boys, and even my friends, other friends who I met when I first arrived in Toronto through ASAP and whatever. Like, and I've known them for, like I said, from the time that I've arrived in 2002. I arrived in 2000. I met them in 2002, and so yeah, like Christian and Elisa and all of them.
Nice.
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
so let's talk about you now. So you are the eldest of three. You have two younger sisters.
Yeah.
You have two dogs, and their names are
Mhm.
Charlie and
Merlin.
Merlin, I guess.
Merlin,
Uh, Merlin, like the magician.
the magician. The
Yeah.
shelter named him Merlin, and I kind of sort of took him.
Okay. And then you still have two birds.
I
You have,
used to have two birds, but
right.
because of my decision to come here, I couldn't bring them because a road trip would have been dangerous for them. So I gave them up.
You like that's a lot of pets. Like as a South Asian person, we never had pets. We were told pets are dirty. And so we've been scared of dogs. Like we were scared of dogs for most of our lives because we thought they would attack us. Even like little tiny ones. But that's like, did you grow up with pets here? Like, how did you, like, where does the fondness for having a zoo where their pets come from?
I've always loved animals. Animals have been my thing. Like even now, for me to unwind, I will sit down with my bowl of Captain Crunch or Frosted Flakes and watch National Geographic or Animal Planet or whatever it is. Just because I don't know, there's something always that I've loved it. And I volunteered at the zoo here in Winnipeg, and I'm looking forward to doing that again. But I don't know, there's just something about animals that just like just caused me some great interest, and they're just calming to be around. I love horses, and so just going to the barn to brush a horse. I also part boarded a horse for a while I was in Toronto. Just brushing them and riding them and all that kind of stuff. It's just nice to take care of them, and they don't say anything. I mean, if they don't want you around, they'll just bite you or kick you or whatever. But there's the end of that.
Right.
But I don't know, I've always been fascinated. And if I was really good at science and math, I always said that I would have gone into zoology or and become like a veterinarian or worked at the zoo as a zookeeper. But yeah, and to this day, I mean, if I win the lottery, I think I would totally quit and I would buy myself a nice acreage and have like a hobby farm with rescued animals. That's what I would do. Like, yeah, that's how much I love animals. We never grew up in Sri Lanka. We had chickens and cows and dogs and stuff, but the dogs and animals would never come into the house unless they were chicks and we were playing them or something like that. But when I moved here to live with my parents, no animals. My mom hated animals until I started working, and then I was able to buy birds. And then she's like, "Okay, fine." And then I got a rabbit, and then she's like, "Really?" And then I brought a stray dog home, and then she just flipped out. And so it was one of those things that I wanted. And so when I got on my own, I had Bronx before, and then Bronx I had to give up. And then I got Charlie and Merlin. And I just like, yeah, I don't know. Animals are my thing.
Well, it's good to know. Yeah, I had no idea. I didn't. Yeah, you really like them, and the fact that you would actually, if you won the lottery, you would go get an acreage and raise animals for fun. That is fascinating to know.
The simple life, just me and the horses and the cows and the pigs.
Yeah, I sometimes don't believe that would be the simple life because I feel like there's still caretaking that has to happen of all these animals. Yeah.
No, and it's not complex, right? It's like, okay, you need to get fed, feed them. You need to wash them, wash them. Open the gate, let them go, have a fun time, and then at night bring them back in.
So in my experience, that's what my relationships are like. So I don't know why it's so complicated, Haran. Like
Relationships were like that for me.
yeah, they're simple. Yeah.
I had to talk to people. I'm like, oh. See, this is why I'm single.
I think the problem here is, but maybe because you're in Toronto, it was just too much talking. Now you're in Winnipeg, you've got time to chat and talk to people.
Yeah, I've got time to sit and talk to people, and I have brain space. In Toronto, I didn't have brain space. Here, I feel I can actually not get annoyed with people and actually can sit down and say, "How are you feeling?" and be genuine about it rather than, "Hey, how's it going? How are you doing? And I bought you some roses." Like, okay, no, like I don't do those things.
Right.
But I'd like to sit down and have a meaningful conversation. Like, don't talk to me on the phone because I don't want to talk to you on the phone. Text me on the phone. Talk to me in person.
Oh, okay. I mean, this doesn't work at the gay dating scene. Just so you're clear, right? Like, I feel like texting is everything here. Oh, not even here, just in Toronto. So, yeah, that's a challenging. Got it. Yeah.
Complicated.
Yeah, no, and I think there'll be somebody out there who will love this complication and will step up to the plate and will do it.
Exactly.
Yeah, I feel like in my experience, when like in Toronto, when men said this to me, I'd be like, great. So I would I would follow through with that, and then they wouldn't follow through with it. Like I went to one guy, I was like, oh yeah, I hate like texting, but I love talking on the phone. I was like, amazing. So I picked up the phone and called him all the time, and he was like, would text me back, and I was like, mother effer, you said you like talking on the phone. I'm trying to like put your money where your mouth is. Don't like, But I think that's part of like living up to the Joneses, right? Like, look at me, I'm different than the other guys you're chatting with.
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah. Okay. So two dogs, two bird pets. Favorite color?
Blue.
Okay. That's not interesting because I think you own a lot of blue shirts. Like blue is a color you wear often.
Yeah.
Ah,
It's one thing that like I try to diversify and I'm like, oh well, maybe I'll wear a yellow shirt. Like, no, I'm gonna go with the blue.
right.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's your color. Get it. Favorite movie?
Where do I start? Tu Wong Fu, thanks for everything, Julie Newmar.
Ooh, good one.
It just makes me laugh, and I've never, and it's yeah, I just piss myself laughing.
It was definitely like one of the first queer drag queen movies. Like,
Well, Priscilla Queen of the Desert
was there a person of
it,
color in there?
person of color. I don't.
Oh,
Oh no, no,
no, they
sorry,
were in Australia. No,
no.
no, yeah. No, so I mean, like, yeah, drag queens, like in, yeah, people of color in drag queens. That went mainstream. I know there's a lot of non-mainstream movies, but that went mainstream with these
Wesley
things.
Snipes and John Leguizamo and
Yeah.
Swayze, like the manliest of men in drag, and it was like that's done.
Well, not John Luciano though, but I feel like he was the least of them there. Like, but the first two for sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. First two for sure. It speaks to a lot about how much hair and makeup can come in handy, right?
Okay.
Um, Favorite actor?
Favorite actor? I'd have to say Matthew McConaughey for some reason.
Oh, okay.
I don't
Hmm.
know. Mississippi Burning did it for me.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I feel like,
I think that's yeah.
yeah, he's done some really great movies. There's something about like,
He's weird as fuck, but
yeah, like he's just fixes as fuck. Like I feel like it's something very like cowboy about him still.
yeah,
That just scares me a little bit.
yeah.
Yeah, maybe that's the appeal.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's more him now than he was before. But
Right.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah, you're right. He could have aged, and he's changed, of course. Yeah. Um, Favorite actress?
God. I want to say Angela Bassett in her
Okay.
in her old days, but not so much now in that TV show. But I'd say Angela Bassett.
Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah. I feel like she just seems very mainstream, but back in the day, she was like,
yeah,
yeah, I agree. She was waiting to exhale, right?
yeah.
Yeah. Favorite food?
Bread and butter.
Really interesting. Okay.
I don't like yeah. I mean, other food is food, but bread and butter just give me comfort, and I just like slather on some butter and have some bread and good to go.
Any specific kind of bread, like sourdough bread or?
No, like the crusty bread that you get that you have to cut yourself.
Hey, wow, you really
White bread.
are.
No,
Yeah.
no healthy business there. No grains, no nothing. Just white bread. Yeah.
Aaron, simple life is sounding is really who you are. Yeah.
If people
Maybe.
say Chinese or whatever, I'm like, it's food. Bread and butter.
Hmm. Oh no, no, no. I feel like I love bread and butter. Like bread and butter and jam are my like the best thing I can have first thing in the morning. Or like they're my comfort food on Saturdays, but not my favorite food.
No, it is.
Okay. Do you toast the bread or don't toast the bread?
No, I don't toast the bread. If it's
Okay.
fresh, I don't toast it. But if it's
Okay.
a couple of days, I toast it.
Okay. Okay.
Here's the
Fair.
complex part of my life.
I feel like that just makes good food knowledge. Like if it's fresh, you don't need to toast a fresh bread because it tastes amazing, right? Favorite drink?
A rum and coke.
That sounds great. Uh, Favorite restaurant?
I don't think I have a favorite restaurant.
Right?
But yeah, no.
Uh, Recommendations for a really good restaurant in Winnipeg that you've gone to so far.
I'm the worst person to ask about
Okay,
recommendations for rest because remember, I just eat food.
right. Sorry, bread and butter, bread and butter. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
People say clay oven is good for Indian food. I'm like, okay. There is the what's it called? The Golden Dragon, I think, is a Chinese restaurant. I looked at the menu on the fridge.
The worst promotion. I like don't go into sales and marketing. Like you're gonna people say this is great. No, that's fine. You don't know. It's okay. But the Clay Oven does have amazing biryani that we ordered for Krishali in December, and we're gonna order for Stavros in a couple days. Like we're waiting for. Yeah. But they do have really good biryani if you feel like you want a biryani.
Okay,
Yeah. How many languages do you speak?
just two.
English and
Tamil,
Tamil. Okay. Sweet or savory?
savory.
Blondes or brunettes? Neither. Okay, so redheads, black
No,
heads. No, what the no.
hair never really did it for me.
Okay. The daddies or twinks?
In betweeners. So I'm more the otter kind of person.
Ooh, yeah. Yeah. I feel like that's a good age to be in because they're just old enough to be smart, but still pretty enough to. I don't know what the right word is, or like I know what the word I want to say is. It's just not the right word.
Old enough to fake it to make it.
Yeah, like they're old enough like that you can have a good conversation with them, but they're just they still have the energy of a younger person and like things are still sitting up.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Uh, so majority of your resume as you're working in the South Asian queer or health space, was that a conscious decision you made?
It wasn't. Um, it actually was purely by accident. I knew social work was something that I wanted to go into. I think I always say this, but I think I disappointed my mom when I said I was going to go into social work more so than when I came out of the closet, because her dream was for me to be a doctor or whatever. But No, so it was actually purely by accident. When I was coming out of the closet, people were saying, "Oh, you got to be careful with HIV, etc." And then I'm like, okay, fine. So I went and joined the Nine Circles Community Health Center, and I volunteered there as a pre and post test counselor. And then so that's sort of how I got to learn about HIV. And I also created community with the other LGBT folks that volunteered there or work there. And I got to know people that way. And then when I moved to Toronto, I actually moved there with an assistant manager job at Le Chateau. The high fashion there, people, high fashion.
Yeah, that
Um,
explains the choker and the contacts now. Ugh, and the thin eyebrows, just so we're clear.
exactly. And the thick boots and shoes and things. Anyways, Le Chateau's lovely. Watch there be a lawsuit. I mean, I don't
I think they've all gone out of business now. Like they're all closed. They've all closed down.
have but then yeah, then I moved there, and then I was looking for a part-time job, and a part-time job came up as a Tamil outreach worker at ASAP. Um, and so I applied, and because I spoke Tamil and because I was comfortable me being gay and talking about HIV, et cetera, and I had knowledge with my volunteer here, and that's how I got started really. So it was purely by accident, not intention, but I don't regret it.
No, and I feel like if the universe hadn't say like you were in the right space and you've done the work you've done in Toronto has been fantastic. And I think the community you've built and what you've started helped people start off on things have been fantastic. So maybe not where you thought you were going to be, but I think the right place for you to be. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Our time's up. It's really quick. Um, but I have one thing I need to ask. So when you Google there's an IMDb. You show up before IMDb. Did you know that?
No.
Which is a movie channel. So you show up in a movie called "I Am a Stripper" by Burlesque. Tell us a little bit about that. Like, how did you end up in that movie? And
Um,
what's your role?
I don't know. I'm curious now because I haven't.
Hmm.
Someone else asked me that as well, and I'm like, I don't know. I maybe should Google it, and maybe it might prevent me from becoming Governor General of Canada if I was in there, and I don't know how they got in there. But no, and I think it's probably because I spoke on some issues around sex work and strippers or exotic dancers being a part of sex work, and I think I'm quite open about that. It's like, you know what, if you choose to do it, it's a job, do it. If you're being forced, that's another issue. So I think that's probably why I'm there, but I'm gonna look it up now.
Yeah, it came up and I was like, this is so juicy. Who would have known you had so many other juicy things to talk about? So,
Or I could have been a stripper. I don't know. I mean,
well, let us know because we'll support the movie by going to buy it. Like, I'm going to go watch it.
please, it will do.
Thank you so much for taking time to do this with me. This is so fun. It was actually good to know you, and to like I think people who've been asking about you and wanting to know you. This is a good way to give them a more chill, non-Toronto relaxed Haran.
Uh, hey, and it's always lovely talking to you. So I would never miss up an opportunity to have a combo.
I think I feel the same way as well. So thank you. Like I feel like even in Toronto, you always made time to like go have a drink or like even at you busy as you were like, yeah, let's go for a beer. Like I always appreciate that. So
Right.
thanks. Yeah. And we'll do that here once the world opens up and
Thanks.
once it gets warmer.
Yeah.
I can sit on a patio.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to thank everybody else out there who took time out of their busy schedule to tune in as her and I chatted. We'll see you bitches next week. Bye.